friends. Ray and Judith Hilton here with another episode on disciplines that will grow your marriage. You see, we believe that your marriage is your most important investment. And every week you come to our channel, you're going to receive practical insight on how to strengthen this precious commodity called your marriage. And if you like what you're hearing, I'm just going to tell you now to go ahead and click that like button. We would love for you to leave a comment. We would love for you to subscribe. We would love for you to share these principles. If they have blessed your life, we want you to share them with others. Today we want to talk to you about a challenge that I believe every couple, no matter what part of the world you're from, no matter what language you speak, there's a particular challenge that every couple around the globe are dealing with, and that is the issue of conflict. Now, I want to go on record right away by saying to you that conflict is inevitable. The fact that you have conflict in your marriage isn't a sign that you don't love each other. It's not a sign that something is flawed in your marriage. It is not a sign that something is even wrong with you. Conflict is inevitable because we, the people who make up the marriage, are not perfect people. So I can go on record right now and let you know that my wife and I, Judith and I, we've been married for many years, but we still struggle with conflict. The bottom line isn't that you're going to eliminate the conflict. That's not the problem. The challenge is, can you manage the conflict? Can you manage the conflict? So Judith, let's just jump right in and talk a little bit about what is it that causes couples to be in a state of agitation and conflict? Are there some causes that doesn't matter where you are in the world, we could say, yep, that's what's causing it?
Well, I know no matter what part of the world you're from, I know that money is a big thing that causes conflict in couples, in marriages.
Yes.
One of the other things, sex. Sex is a big issue too. Sometimes the other issue that sometimes comes up is an issue with child rearing, parenting.
Yes.
Parenting can become a big part of conflict. Sometimes even when a spouse is working too hard or too many long hours, and the other spouse feels like they're not around, sometimes that can be a matter of conflict too. And then I can think of in-laws can cause conflict too.
In-laws, or sometimes they call them
family.
Yeah, they call them outlaws.
Okay.
And if I've offended anyone, forgive me. I'm just trying to be funny.
Yes, and then you can have irritating habits that maybe one spouse feels that the other person has.
Yeah. I think another source of conflict, Judith, and this maybe goes back to even a time when we were newlyweds. Within our first 2-3 years, we were trying to change each other instead of accepting who we are as persons. You know, I'm different from Judith, she's different from me, and instead of trying to change her, I need to just accept her for who she is. That is another source of conflict.
Yes.
We're also living in some very, very stressful times with the political climate, with the racial climate, and those items can also spark conflict even within a marriage. Sometimes the other issue that causes conflict is when the couple simply, they do not trust each other.
Yes.
Maybe something happened in the past, and it doesn't matter what's going on. It could be that the bread was left too long in the toaster oven, and that becomes a source of conflict. And in reality, it's not about the bread in the toaster oven, it's about the issue that was never resolved. So you get our drift. There are so many sources of conflict. In fact, I would encourage you, if there is something you think we're missing from the list, go ahead and put that conflict in the comment box so that others can understand some of the other sources of conflict. The bottom line is, it's inevitable. And the question is, how do you manage it? So Judith, I have another question for you. Why is it then that a couple finds it difficult to get out of the conflict? What would be some of the reasons why couples find it difficult to sort of dig themselves out of that habitual state of conflict?
Well, I remember a gentleman by the name of John Gottman and his wife. They have what you call a thing called the Four Horsemen, and one of them is criticism.
That's a source of conflict.
Yes, contempt, defensiveness, and the last one is stonewalling. And one that is really detrimental is stonewalling, which when a couple reaches that stage, you know that it's going to be very hard for them to move forward. They can with help, but it's very hard when once the stonewalling occurs, it's really downhill from there.
And for people who aren't familiar with that term stonewalling, what's the best way to describe it? What is stonewalling?
Well, it's a place where the person can be living in the same house and there's nothing, no emotional energy, no conflict anymore because they're not even talking to each other. They're just ready now to throw in the towel. It's pretty much done.
Yeah.
When that happens. And stonewalling, I don't even see you, or you don't even exist, you're not even here.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So, and that happens. Yes, there are couples right now, some of you might even be in that situation right now, and I think here's what we want to do. First of all, we want to ring the alarm bell and say, if you are in a state of perpetual conflict and you're not managing it well, there are some things you're doing to yourself and to your relationship that is very detrimental. Mm-hmm. So one of the things I know can happen to a couple, Judith, is that they're always hurting.
Yes.
They're always hurting because, there are these things going on in the marriage, whether it's over money or other things, and people are just lobbing grenades at each other and hurting each other. Yes. The second thing I think happens is that it begins to destroy emotional intimacy. Mm-hmm. Because remember what we've all said, whenever I meet a couple who wants to get married, when they come and they meet with me, they are sitting so close together. They are so emotionally aligned and in touch with each other. But what conflict does, unresolved conflict, perpetual conflict, is that it just continues to pull the couple farther and farther apart emotionally. Yes. And that is very, very painful.
Yes.
So people will say, well, Ray, Judith, I know that. I know we are in a state of conflict. What I can't understand is why. Why can't we get out of it? And you've listed criticism. You've listed stonewalling and defensiveness and contempt. Mm-hmm. And these things are horrible habits to fall into. But maybe there's even an overarching reason why we stay in the conflict. And the word I've been using is that high horse.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
What is that high horse, Judith?
Well, both people, their pride is the thing that puts people on high horses. And if both of you decide that you're going to stay on this high horse and nobody says, I'm going to come down and humble myself and resolve and not bring peace and bring resolution, then if both people are on the high horse and nobody decides to come down, that couple really can't move forward.
They cannot move forward. And we've done it before. So again, we're going to keep it real, guys.
Yes.
We've done it before because I have been in situations where something has gone wrong in our relationship, and I, in my mind, begin to say, well, I didn't do anything wrong. She did this, she did that, and so she needs to come to me. And I told you guys the story. Those of you who have seen some of our other videos, you could go back and watch them. I told you the story about a man whose wife offended him, and for a whole year, talk about stonewalling, the man did not speak to his wife. It's as if she didn't exist. He stayed on his high horse, and it was her fault, and he's not going to get off that horse until she comes to him. The problem with doing that, though, is that when you stay in that place of pride and arrogance and unforgiveness, you're just further eroding any possibility of reconciliation and hope.
That's exactly right.
So if you're doing that, guys, somebody needs to get off the high horse. Somebody needs to humble himself or herself and say, we need to talk.
Yes.
And the thing is, here's where I think couples make the mistake, Judith. They think they need to have a certain emotion, like maybe they feel lovey-dovey now. Okay, I feel good now. Now I can talk. Yes. And what's the problem with feelings?
Well, feelings are very fickle, sometimes you have to almost like fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it.
You don't necessarily wait for the feelings to come in order to say, I'm going to choose to act in a loving way.
You choose, exactly.
Yes.
You swallow your pride, you get off the high horse. Maybe you're still feeling angry, but you know it's the right thing to do.
Yes.
So you don't go by your feelings, you go by what is the right thing we need to do. I need to humble myself before God, before my wife, and say, you know what? We didn't deal with that very well.
Yes.
Let's talk about this. Yes. Let's figure this out. And the fact that you can talk is the beginning of resolving the thing. But here's the reality, we're keeping it real. There are times when the couple cannot talk. What do they need to do?
Well, if the couple cannot talk, one of the things that I always tell people is that when they reach that stage, is that sometimes they need to bring someone else
yes.
in, either a therapist or a friend, another couple, a pastor, somebody who can be a mediator. Because sometimes you just reach the stage of, as I said, I love to use the term stuck.
Yes.
You can't move forward. And so that's the best thing I would suggest, that you definitely get some help.
Yeah.
As soon as possible.
Yeah.
Because the bleeding is going to keep going if it's neglected.
Oh my. And the fact that they can't talk to each other says, number one, they're very angry, they're very stuck, but also they're not listening. So let's just switch gears very quickly, because I look at the time and I see our time is running out. Let's just switch gears very quickly, Judith. So let's assume the couple is ready. We want to change things. We want to lower the level of conflict in the home. We can't get rid of it. It's always going to be there, but we want to figure out things we can practice on a regular basis to manage the conflict. What would you recommend are some things couples could do?
Well, if the case is unforgiveness, for example,
Okay.
that could be one issue, that somebody is not forgiving, not letting go. I think it's important for us to listen to the spouse.
Listen. Right.
And maybe the spouse has been offended. Listen and hear that person's heart, and hear what is causing that person to feel like they could never ever forgive you, or there's resentment. Sometimes there are all different kinds of things that happen that bring that strain. And so if you can talk about it, but I always do with clients is sometimes let one person have the floor, and that person is the only person that can speak, and then the other couple, the other individual listens to exactly what the spouse is saying, and then they have to reflect what they heard back to me.
So I think the word you use there is the mat and the mirror.
Mirror, yes.
M&M, the mat and the mirror. So the mat represents the
platform.
the platform. I like to sometimes say whoever's holding the pen. So maybe when you're ready to talk, you bring a pen into the conversation and say, okay, I'm going to give you the pen, you go first. And if I give you the pen, what does that mean for me?
Well, the fact is that if I give you the pen, I'm giving you the chance to speak and to pour out what's happening.
If I give you the pen, it means I'm giving you the chance to speak, and
Yes.
my job
is to listen.
Zip it and listen. And the listening that I'm supposed to be doing is not, okay, I'm going to tell her she's wrong here. Okay, I'm going to tell her she's off. And I'm thinking of what I'm going to say. No, that's not listening.
No.
Listening means
Active listening.
like a mirror. I'm holding up a mirror, and when you're finished speaking, I'm supposed to do what?
Reflect. Tell me what you heard your spouse say, or what you heard me say.
So I'm going to say something like, okay, Judith, what I think I hear you saying is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you'll say yes, or you say, nope, you're still not hearing me.
Exactly.
And if you say I'm still not hearing you, then you are going to repeat it again, and I'm supposed to listen even more, and then try to reflect it. Now, the reason why that's important is because so often conflicts then begin to be addressed when people are able to listen and hear what's being said.
Yes.
Not just through the ears, but at the emotional level.
Yes.
I understand what you're saying now. And often that leads to words like, all right, I see what you're saying.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I see what you're saying. I was wrong.
Yes.
And it's not that the conflict then is finally resolved and it never comes back, but you're developing skills to manage it quickly. What's another step couples could take?
Well, the important thing is rejecting, we talked about that already, pride and selfishness.
Yes.
Because those are two big things that will prevent any couple couple from moving forward.
Exactly.
Well, when there's pride, and then focus on the problem and not focus on the problem and not the person.
Right.
And I said that before, that we sometimes go at the person,
Yes.
attacking the person and not the problem.
The issue,
It
right.
could be something about the children's behavior, or children being disciplined, whatever.
Yes.
So things like that can really cause, if we resolve those things, then we can really move forward. If we listen, if we submit to each other, that's another thing.
Submitting to each other. That's exactly right. And that
And
goes
then
with the
praying.
humility. And then the prayer.
Prayer.
Being
Definitely.
able to pray. I mean, one of the things that immediately goes out the door is when couples stay on their high
Yes.
horse. When you humble yourself, you come before each other, there's a readiness to pray. And I think you said some time ago that sometimes the prayer can also be you go off in a corner and begin praying together.
Yes, separately.
Separately.
And then
even come together and pray.
Yes.
So 2 quick verses that I think speaks to this issue. The first one says, be quick to listen. From James, it says, be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger.
Yes.
Easier said than done, right?
Yes.
The second one is from 1 Corinthians chapter 13 when it says love keeps no...
Record of wrongs.
Say it again.
Love keeps no record of wrongs.
Love keeps no record of wrongs. So we keep a short account. We're quick to forgive. Now, listen, this topic is a huge topic, as you can tell. And chances are we're going to come back and do a round 2 on this issue of conflict because it is so prevalent in every single relationship all across the globe. People struggle to know how to resolve conflict, how to manage conflict. And we believe that the stakes are too high. Marital intimacy is too important to be shredded by perpetual conflict.
Yes.
So if this helps you, if you like what you're hearing, again, I want you to click the like button. I want you to leave a comment. I want you to also subscribe if you've not subscribed before. But also, I want you to pass this information on to other people who needs the help. All right? God bless you.